Welcome to episode 8. I'm Danielle Stiles.
And I'm Chasey Bardach.
We are here with the beloved Tiffany Atkinson from Tag Studio. Now, we're going to dive into some details about branding today. So let's maybe dive in with what are some tips from a 101 perspective of branding that people need to make sure that they have already put together before they're out there seeking things like influencer marketing or media.
So, thank you for calling me beloved. That made me smile.
Yes.
Because, I think you're awesome. So, for that, we start with 4 things. So, I do branding and marketing. I have a branding and marketing agency. So, my job is to teach people how to brand themselves, how to market themselves. And everybody likes to go visual first.
Yes.
So, I really have to encourage people to look at strategy. And so when you look at strategy, you're thinking about creating a strategic plan for either your brand or either your marketing. And so you want 4 pieces for that. You want to have your mission. So your mission is just your purpose. It's what do you do? What does your business do? It includes kind of your bigger why of why are you in business? Why are you an organization outside of...
Maybe why are you different from your competitors?
Not why are you different, just why are you there?
Okay.
Outside of making a profit. Because that matters to people. That's what people connect with. Next is vision. Vision is the impact that you want to have. So thinking about your business, where do you want it to go? What do you want to kind of bring to the table that's not there? Where do you want to build to? That's your vision. That kind of helps. Your mission and vision, they both help guide you in different ways. Your mission helps you stay focused on what are you doing right now. Your vision makes sure that you're teeing yourself up to be where you want to be. And then your values is what makes you different. What you care about, how you do things, like what makes you different. A lot of times when you ask someone, why do they like something? And then they go on to, oh, well, I like what they represent, or I like what they stand for. They're talking about the values. And most times people haven't even read the company values, but they associate them in their head, and they pick that up based off how the brand is or how the marketing is. And then, so we have mission, vision, values. And then the last one is your goals. So I always tell people set 3 goals, and you want to do them yearly. So what do you want to do within the next year in your business? You want to do this kind of every year. Your goals need to keep growing, and they need to keep moving you forward. And so with that, we want to focus on goals outside of financial goals. We want to look at kind of what kind of business do you want to build? Do you want to kind of take on a new aspect? Do you want to launch a new product?
A lot of people think about, I would say when they talk about goals of their business, it's always about audience or reach or engagement or those sort of specifics. Can you maybe, is that the same thing? Or?
It is. So that's also included in it. It's, do you want to connect with a new audience? Do you want to connect with an audience in a different way? A lot of times you find, especially as you start putting in some years and you start getting known, a lot of times it'll be, I want to be known for like, everybody knows me for this thing, but I do these 4 other things. Yeah, right. So a lot of times that comes up on the goals list of how do I help people know these kind of 4 other things?
So this is really mesmerizing to me because when I think about branding, I so often think about things like tagline and logo and mission statement and, like the fundamentals. Do I have branding colors? Do I have fonts? Like the media kit sort of items. So do you expect people to have those things already? Is that not ground zero? Should your core values and the 4 things you just laid out be ground zero? What are your thoughts?
So those should be ground zero. The mission is actually the mission statement. Vision is the vision statement. You can have colors. You don't always have to have them. I try to keep visuals out of it because everything I just named in the 4 things, those are all messaging related, and your messaging is going to drive everything else.
You have helped them formulate these 4 things. What is next?
Basically a questionnaire.
Okay.
And it's really just asking questions. It doesn't have to be a questionnaire. We start with those 4 things, and then we gauge where are you on everything else. And I start with those 4 things because it gives me a sense of who you are.
Right.
It also gives me a sense of how well you know who you are, because it's interesting when people like give me things like, oh, this is my mission statement, this is my vision statement, these are our values. It's like, okay, well, did you come up with these? Oh, no, someone else did. So what makes them yours? So also kind of,
Or maybe just even the miscommunication of
Yes.
it. You know, like one of my favorite quotes, and I wish I could quote who it is. They say your brand is not what you say it is. Your brand is what the consumer says it is.
so I'm glad you said that, because that, a lot of people always ask me, what is branding? And it really is that. It's like perception. It's what is your reputation? What do people, there's another good one of your brand is what people say you are when you're not in the room.
Yes.
So when we are branding or marketing, we're helping build that perception. We're trying to direct it in the way in which we want
Can
people
people
to think
tell
of us.
your story without you narrating it?
Yes.
So through the world of digital marketing, and we'll speak, this could be all-encompassing websites, social media platforms, what are maybe some really essential things that business owners need to make sure that they have in place for their business today that impact branding or that experience that the customer might be having?
So for one, I would say a website. Really anywhere you can put yourself that your audience is, that
Yeah.
they can connect with you is good. But you need those things that are yours, that you own. So a website is one. I'm also really big on business cards. Something that I do with a lot of my clients, because my business cards are textured.
I
So
love
almost-
your business card, by the way.
Thank you. Almost all of my clients' business cards are, well, all of them actually, are unique if I have done them. And it's because, think about how many business cards you get in a day. So those are all things that play into the brand.
Can I ask you a question? Do you do these websites or these business cards now, or is that something you contract out? How do you serve that?
I was doing websites and I was doing business cards. I am moving in a direction of contracting out now. But so I'm not doing them as much. I am more so kind of directing the ship and where are we taking the brand? Where are we taking the marketing? And then some of it is I connect them with people that I know are really good for.
So lots of strategy.
Yes.
Yeah. So from a perspective of strategy, because I think that what is huge when I talk to business owners who maybe already have the preliminary stuff, right? They've got the logo, the brand colors, they might even have a website, but they're all going to say usually similar things. I have a website, it needs some work, or it's been a while since I've updated it. Or I have social media, but I'm not consistently posting, I'm not showing up, I'm not really sure if my messaging is being received the way that I intend for it to be received. And I think even Chas, you experience this when people hire you to do branding sessions. There's kind of a list of expectations that you have before you're actually able to create media for them that tells that story, right?
Absolutely.
There's no checklist.
No.
Like there's no where do we go to find this list of things that we don't know what we're supposed to be doing?
So it's actually funny that you say that. I've really thought about making a checklist. I've also.
Will you do that for us? Can you make a checklist and we'll make it available?
Sure, we could do that.
Okay, let's do it.
We can do a checklist. I've also thought about doing terms too, because a lot of people don't know terms.
Yeah.
And so
give us a few examples.
So brand strategy, a lot of times people don't know what that is. It's literally just creating a strategy for your brand. Sometimes it's also called brand direction.
Is this like the voice of your brand? Is that what you're calling?
Brand strategy?
Yeah.
No, it's not the voice. It really is how are we going to build it and how are we going to manage it. It's literally just the plan. So
Okay.
brand voice is actually your personality. Like how do you present yourself? That's brand voice.
Okay.
Also called brand personality. Logo. Also sometimes called brand identity.
Okay.
It's literally like that is your logo. That is the visual
How
that
people
people
recognize you.
associate with your brand. That's all I can think of.
Yeah,
right now.
no, that's huge because when we talk about the world of social media, I think so many people, we've said this a dozen times on this podcast, and I will continue to say it, people don't have content calendars.
Nope.
They have no schedule. They
Nope.
have no plan.
Nope.
And there's a statistic that I read recently when I was doing some research for an upcoming talk that says without a plan, we waste 75% of our time.
Yes.
And I sat on that for a minute and I thought, okay, so if I'm really only operating at 25% productivity because I don't have a plan, but I'm too busy to put a plan in place, I'm lying to myself. So when we talk about brands and we talk about the growth or the projection or our goals, maybe walk us through what are you, from a strategic perspective, helping them wrap their brain around so that they aren't wasting 75% of their time?
So the first thing that I'm helping them wrap their brain around, I think the biggest thing, it's probably my main goal when I work with clients, is that your brand is not just visual. That's probably the first thing. It's a combination of visual and strategy, and mainly strategy.
Okay.
That's really the biggest thing. I know when I first started, I would get a lot of like, oh, I already have a brand. They had a logo. Just a logo. We didn't have anything else. We just had a logo.
Okay.
It's like, that is not a brand. That's the first thing. The second thing I am helping with is giving clients confidence. So for me to be the person that does strategy and then also helping people at least get started for management, like setting that first plan in place and then kind of teaching them this is how you go over it, you look and we see where we are, getting them invested into it and actually making them a part of the process. I've had a lot of people come and we'll do a consultation and we'll talk. And I've had some questions of, okay, well, like, how much can I just pay you to do everything? And it's like, well, that's just not how I work. I know some great people who work like that because to me, our brand should be personal. Mm-hmm. Even if it's just, and you may not have been the person that started, even if you're just at the top of the chain managing, you have to have a personal investment in that. I got a question once of how do I get myself on the same page with my audience? And so that was a conversation of, well, you have to figure out who your audience is. You have to kind of study them. You have to figure out where they are, what are they expecting from you. Mm-hmm. And once you start working towards that, over time, the two should start to sync up because you're
You're going to find more of your people.
Yes.
I think that's so important. I want to maybe stay on that point for a second. So often businesses will essentially think that they have to pander to their audience.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. Right? Because we live in such a vanity metric world of social media where we think our comments and our likes and our follower counts define us as a brand or business, or maybe validate us, more importantly, as a brand or a business. And so we do whatever we do to arrive at the figures we have, and then we don't want to lose them, right?
Yeah.
Like the thought of going backwards is not an option. So then we start pandering to that audience, but maybe that audience isn't the right audience, right? So what is maybe some advice that you have to people who can go into their existing audiences today, who maybe don't know how to define their avatar, right? We spent some time over the last couple episodes talking a little bit about who's your avatar. You know, for Katie, it was Heather. But talking in specifics about who it is that you actually need, like who's your actual client versus who's just your follower, who's just here listening to you. Do you have any advice that you give them to maybe dive into the weeds of that or navigate those paths?
I do. So I don't actually start with avatar. We do get to avatar. I start with what is sometimes referred to as customer segments. And
Okay.
so it's just the idea of, as people, you know, we can always kind of be grouped into small groups based off the things we have in common. Like, we're women. We're also women entrepreneurs. So
and women in Indianapolis.
Yes.
Like it just kind of builds, right?
So teaching them about how to segment, we work on 4. So when you look over kind of branding and marketing, how they've segmented in the past, there are 4 common ones. So one is demographics. So kind of where you live, what your family is like. Another is the buyer's journey. So how you have it's just the idea that all consumers go through 3 different stages. Some say 4, I just stick with the basic 3 ones. So one is awareness. They're becoming aware that they have a problem and need your service. Consideration. They're now going out and getting more information on the service or the product. And then decision. They know what the service is. They know what the product is. And then now they're ready to buy. Like they already know who's out there. Now I need to narrow it down to, okay, who am I going with? Another is behaviors. And then the last is how they like to receive information. Where do they like to hang out? Is it on social media? Are they more into websites? Are they an email person? Are they gonna rather kind of show up to a vendor event filled with different vendors? So we work off of those 4. We find traits in common with those within those 4 groups kind of all working together.
I think this point
Yeah.
is so valid because when we talk about shooting media for our platforms, we'll speak about Indie Social for a minute. We know that people are expecting different things from us from
Yes.
different platforms. So our media has to serve that, right? Our conversation, our copy, if you will, what our, descriptions are, what our captions are, they have to answer those questions,
Yes.
solve those problems, or provide that resource that they're looking for in the form of media
Yes.
that they're consuming. So, like, this is always a question I constantly get, and I'm really curious your thoughts on it. People talk about, as Facebook and Instagram become more cohesive and you can automatically post or automatically share across multiple platforms, how do you advise your clients to maybe navigate some of those paths?
It really depends on where your audience likes to hang out and how they like to receive information. Kind of what you said of what are the expectations. I'm glad you mentioned that because that's one of the reasons that we build segments is to figure out what are they looking for specifically. That's why I talk about the buyer's journey because all 3 stages of that journey, they are looking for information in some form. So what is that information going to look like? It really just depends on how they like to receive information. For me, I do actually auto post from my Instagram to my Facebook, but I only do it once. And the reason being is I get a lot more kind of engagement and a lot more of my crew hangs out on Instagram.
Yeah.
I also have some that hang out on LinkedIn. I actually post about as much to it as I do to LinkedIn as I do as Instagram. And then Facebook is really, I do it about once a week. And it's more so to kind of have that digital footprint. Mm-hmm. And it's like, of all the posts I did this week, what do I think is kind of the most important
And
from
then that
this
goes
week?
to Facebook.
Yes.
Oh, I love that. I love that because I teach that you should never, from an algorithm perspective, cross post.
Mm-hmm.
But that is not a hard rule.
No.
And that's what it's so hard to explain to people that social media does not work in an exact mathematical science that can be transplanted from my account or my brand to yours and your brand. You have to follow your audience's experience, that journey.
And it's the same way with branding, and that's why I like about the idea of kind of a strategy. You just teach kind of overall, this is the process.
Right.
Within this process, we're going to try it out. You probably will not keep every single step I tell you in the process. You should probably have all the messaging components because that's the base. But there might be some things, I tell my clients this all the time, there might be some things that we do together and you try it out and you decide like, okay, you said like, let's start with 3 posts. I'm really good at 1. I can stay on top of 1. I get the numbers that I want. I'm getting the feedback that I want from that one. That's what I want. I want people to have that individuality and to figure it out because you need it in branding. You can't do everything the way that everybody else does things. I ask people who their competitors are that they like. So I ask them 2 things about them. What do you like about them? And what can they do better? Because those 2 things can kind of help us gauge, okay, so this is what you like about their process, and this is what you feel they can do better, so maybe we can navigate in that arena. Doesn't always work, but
That's huge.
Yeah.
That's massive.
thank you.
It's like stealing like an artist, right?
Yeah.
I mean, I think a big component of that is we always want to maybe shut off the accounts. Like, so I know I'll speak to the world of like boutiques for a minute.
Mm-hmm.
They maybe don't follow other boutiques or maybe don't like tune into their content or pay a lot of attention to it for the fear of maybe copying them or creatively being inspired by an idea that makes them rethink what they're doing or that fear of competition sort of experience. But to say who we are as a brand, we don't know who our competition is if it's a lie, you should figure it out.
Yeah, you definitely should.
You have to know. It's stupid to not know. And then if you can kind of take that opportunity to steal like an artist, if you will, where you are able to identify what you like and what the misses are, that's a really powerful story to tell.
And that's a lot of times I find with people, it can kind of help you figure out where your lane is going to be. Also, another way that it's really useful, if you ever have issues with like pricing or how am I going to structure something, like especially because I'm service-based, so I get into like, how am I going to package this service? Like, what are people expecting? Go look at what your competition is doing. It can help you gauge, okay, where do I fall on the spectrum? You always want to have an idea. Am I going to be like a high-cost provider? Am I going to be low-cost in the middle? how am I going to do things? Those are all questions that we can answer by looking at our competitors, and they can be inspiration. I would never encourage you to just go out and copy what they're doing. But even if, you know how Instagram has that, you can save post. A lot of people do that to figure out, like, okay, I like how they structured this post. What did I like about it?
Yes.
What can I then, you know, do myself?
Yes.
What can I then, and you can really create new ideas off of that. You don't have to copy what they're doing. You just, it's like, what inspired you? Inspiration is
What caught your attention?
Yes, what caught your attention? Inspiration is huge for branding and marketing, in my opinion. Yes.
So speaking of putting out information, I would love to rabbit hole down LinkedIn for a minute. So you mentioned that you're posting on Instagram and LinkedIn
Yes.
consistently. So are you speaking to that audience the same? You speaking to LinkedIn and Instagram a little differently? And what are your objectives with LinkedIn? Are you seeing more engagement there or all the things of LinkedIn?
Yeah,
we want to know.
Instagram as a whole is more like Tag Studio, the kind of we aspect of me, like of something bigger.
Okay.
LinkedIn is actually where I get to get a lot more personal. I'm one of those that I do have a personal Instagram, but it's private. I actually have it in my bio. If you would like to do business with me, follow this account.
I was actually going to ask you that question. Do you have a personal Instagram account versus
I do.
a business? Okay.
I have a personal and a business. I tried doing both. I also tried doing like the Facebook as the personal as well, like as business as well, allowing that, and I just found I did not like it. So LinkedIn was kind of that opportunity for me and I mean, it surprises me how people engage on there and how well personal stories do.
On LinkedIn.
On LinkedIn, yeah.
Okay.
It does.
Okay.
Something that we've talked about off camera, I guess we can talk about on camera, is starting a nonprofit is something I'm doing, and we're going to launch it with an event. So I created all the actual official business account for the nonprofit, which is Indie Youth Entrepreneurship Initiative, IYEI, and I wrote up like the official post, the save the date, and then I shared it on my like professional LinkedIn that I say I use kind of professionally and personally, and I kind of got to add the tidbit of like, I've been working on this all year, I've been excited to share it. So there's a lot of that happens on my LinkedIn.
That's
of
cool.
kind of that peek behind the curtain of how Tiffany works and operates. And I feel like people then feel like they get to know me and their expectations are set where I want them to be.
I would have thought the complete opposite. I would have thought more professional on LinkedIn and more fun on Instagram, but it's actually just the opposite, and you're seeing more success that way.
I am. I find LinkedIn is just a lot more connection for me.
You know, I think maybe I'd like to chat with you a little bit about that. So often in the space of social, I'll have businesses say to me, I want to be everywhere.
Yep.
And they'll say, I want to be everywhere all the time. And I'm like, okay, those are audacious goals. Where does everywhere mean? What is everywhere to you? And so they'll start, they name all the socials. And they're naming everything from TikTok to Twitter to LinkedIn. And then we start having a conversation about, is that really necessary? Can you maybe speak to that a little bit?
I've had that same conversation. I normally don't even start with where is everywhere to you. I just start with no.
I like that.
That's the candid piece of me. Just no. But I've learned to do that like hard, just no, because sometimes you just have to do it. Yeah, just cut it off. But in my business, at least, I have adopted this practice of if I say no, I try to always give a reason for it. And then on the reverse side of things, if my client really wants something, like it really wants to fight for, like, this has to be a part of my brand, my marketing, I make them defend it. Why? Like, and it's like, if you can pull me over to your side, sure, we'll do it. And I mean, at the end of the day, they do what they want. Like, it's their business, it's their brand, but it's that element of getting them to think, like, critically when it comes to your brand. To answer your question as far as the managing wanting to be everywhere, the idea is a lot of times with a lot of people, if I put myself everywhere, everybody will see me. Yeah. And we all know it doesn't work that way.
Or I hear so-and-so's doing it.
Yes.
It's just a lack of education more so than anything, a lack of knowledge.
As far as social, I try to start people off on 2 or 3 platforms. I try to choose ones that they either already use and they're comfortable with, Or if they don't use it and they're not comfortable, if they're ready to like get up to speed to figure out how to like be them on that platform. Because my goal is that I get to leave at the end of the day, like when we're done with the project, I get to leave, and then either you can step into my place and fill my role, like you being my client, or you can put somebody in my place, but you know how to manage them.
What are some things or some tools or resources that you would recommend to them as they try to figure out these 4 pivotal things? Remind us again what those 4 things are.
So first is mission. So that's, I always tell people what you do, why you do it. Vision, where you want to go, what type of impact you want to have, those need to be in the vision. Values, what do you value, what makes you different? Basically, like what are we setting in place to make sure we're operating the way we want to? And then the last is goals. I like to just work off of 3.
So if I'm looking for resources to help create these for myself, where would I go?
So HubSpot is a really good tool. I think it's HubSpot.com. They're marketing focused. They have a lot of good information on how to do a mission statement, how to do a vision statement, all of these things from a branding and marketing perspective, because that's what they do. They also have classes that are free that you can take. Really like their classes. That's actually a place that I send my clients as they're working with me.
Okay.
And like after, like, remember HubSpot? Remember?
Yeah.
Hootsuite is another one.
Okay.
Similar. For Instagram specifically, kind of learning how to navigate it, Later is one of my favorites. Later
They're
is
the best blog. If you're not on Later and Preview's email distribution lists, like, I'm talking to you. Go subscribe today. They're killer.
So Later, HubSpot, Hootsuite, Chris Do, he's really good in the branding space. He actually speaks to designers, but I feel like his information is good from everybody, and like so much branding knowledge. And he runs The Future is his business, and it's spelled, it's Futur, so future minus the E.
Okay.
So look him up. He has a good blog, and he puts out a lot of good info on that.
So how do they connect with you?
So you can find me on tagstudio.com. That is TAGD studio.com. You can also find me on Instagram at tagstudio, Facebook at tagstudio, and then if you want to connect with me on LinkedIn, you can find me. I am Tiffany Atkinson on LinkedIn.
Okay, well, thank you guys so much for tuning into this episode. I hope you learned as much as we did. And again, if you want to connect with Tiffany, she is Tagged Studio on all the socials.
Yes.
Thanks again, Tiffany. We'll see you very soon.